Ocean Crest won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to The Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is all about
Eddie Murphy. The SNL years.
Early years.
Yeah. His start, his beginning.
Yeah, the humble beginnings.
Humble beginning. Take yourself back to 1980.
Ooh, the beginning of the 80s.
The beginning of the 80s, that is correct. January 25th, Black Entertainment Television is launched.
Nice.
Yeah. March 4th, Robert Mugabe is elected Prime Minister of Zimbabwe.
It's Mugabe.
Mugabe, isn't that what I said?
You said Mugambe.
Mugabe?
It's Mugabe.
I think I just mush mouth.
You put an M in there.
Oh.
Just do it again.
All right. March 4th, Robert Mugabe is elected Prime Minister of Zimbabwe.
Okay, a lot of attitude on that one.
Yep.
But yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And where he was president until November of 2000.
Prime Minister, not president.
Oh, well, he was in office until 2017.
Yes, he actually became a dictator. He decided he was Zimbabwe's prime minister for life and pretty much rigged every election for 40 years.
Well, allegedly. No, I'm just kidding.
It's really sad because he was really he took Zimbabwe away from the he was elected because he was supporting independence.
Right.
And he was huge.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, everyone hated him.
Yeah, because absolute power corrupts absolutely. He all went to his head. You know? It's like when people get in power, you see who they really are. Like our friend, Eddie Murphy.
Well, yeah. May 29th, Vernon Jordan, business executive and civil rights leader, is shot and critically injured in an assassination attempt in Fort Wayne, Indiana, by white supremacist and serial killer Joseph Paul Franklin, who also later confessed to shooting Larry Flint.
Which is it's not 100% that he shot him.
No, he claims he did, but
Like
no
a lot of serial killers, they're like, well, I did that one.
Yeah.
I didn't know he...
it was
he
the
a
same
serial-
with Vernon Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, they don't really know that he did. It was something that he was arrested for the serial killing,
Yeah.
and then very much later he was like, yeah, I shot Vernon Jordan.
Yeah, a lot of those guys did that. They were like...
I know.
It was also a good way to stay the death penalty. If you're like,
Yeah.
there's a couple other people I'll tell you about.
I can take it to some more fields.
Yeah, hold a few back. But yeah, anyway. That's weird that you can't trust a serial killer.
I know,
Word.
it's odd. I would think that they would be the most trustworthy, right?
I don't want to live in that
After
world, Adam.
The Senate?
Okay. All right, here we go.
The main reason is that this came 2 days before CNN launched, and it was their first major news story of covering Vernon Jordan getting shot.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah. Then November 22nd, Eddie Murphy makes his debut on SNL. No dialogue for his first episode. He was just a background character.
He was a bit player, is what you're saying. He wasn't a member
like
of the cast.
Featured player. Yeah. He was background, but he was made full by episode 7 because he was Eddie Murphy. And there's no stopping Eddie Murphy. Okay, so Murphy was born in Brooklyn. He was raised in the borough's Bushwick neighborhood. His mother, Lillian, was a telephone operator, and his father, Charles Edward, was a transit police officer and an amateur actor and comedian.
Really? Did he do theater?
No, I think he did film. He did TV stuff, I think, for the
Cool.
most part.
Was
but
he-
he did not have, like, a career.
Was he like an extra? Or?
I assume. A bit player, yes.
Well, there's a difference between an extra and a bit player. Because a bit player has lines
actually has
usually,
lines.
right?
Yeah.
I don't mean to be a stickler.
I know. His father died in 1969 at the age of 29. He said about his father,
My mother and father broke up when I was 3, and he died when I was 8, so I have very dim memories. He was a victim of the Murphy charm. A woman who stabbed... That's the only thing I'm going to do in my impersonation of Eddie Murphy. A woman who stabbed my father and never got all the logistics. It was supposed to be one of those crimes of passion. If I can't have you, no one else will kind of deal.
when Murphy's single mother became ill, the 8-year-old Murphy and his elder brother Charlie lived in foster care for 1 year.
Ugh, foster care back in the 70s? Yikes.
While in foster care, he watched a lot of TV, like Looney Tunes and I Love Lucy, and it honed his ability to do impressions.
Oh, yeah, man. Look, Bugs Bunny was a big one to him, just like it was a big one. If you look at a lot of these guys that came up in like the 70s, 80s,
Yeah.
they got a lot of Bugs Bunny in them.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, it's all Mel Blanc. Like, it's being able to do characters, yeah.
That guy was, he is so influential. I know I always spew about him, but it's just, he's such an unsung hero. It bothers me.
Yeah, well, we will do a Mel Blanc
back
episode.
to Eddie Murphy,
Yeah,
whatever.
okay. Whatever, Eddie Murphy, yeah. Later, he and his brother were raised in Roosevelt, New York on Long Island with his mother by his mother and stepfather, Vernon Lynch, a foreman at an ice cream plant.
Oh, what a cool thing.
Yeah, I know.
Now, do you know, did he have a good relationship? I think he had a good relationship with his stepdad,
he did.
right?
He did.
And how cool would it be? Like, that's the kind of stepdad you want to be, baby. Because if there's little kids and you work at an ice cream factory, you want them over already.
Win.
Whoa, mom, whoa. He works for an ice cream factory? And we get all the ice cream we want? It's a wonder they're not fat.
You're going to marry him, right, Mom?
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh, man. He hit the Jackie.
Yeah,
the jackpot.
He did. As a child, Murphy loved Peter Sellers, leading him to hone doing multiple characters. Other early influences were Bill Cosby, Red Fox, Robin Williams, Muhammad Ali, Bruce Lee, and Charlie Chaplin. On July 9th, 1976, he performed at a talent show at the Roosevelt Youth Center doing an impersonation of singer Al Green to Let's Stay Together.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. All of his influences, after my dad was a radio guy, and I inherited his record collection. And these are a lot of demo only.
Oh, yeah.
Just sent straight to the station for play.
Some of them still wrapped, yeah.
Some of them are audition records.
Yeah.
I have like a
crazy.
Lalo Schifrin audition record.
Wow.
Which is amazing. But I also found he had a ton of comedy albums. So I found Red Fox. I found Dick Gregory. I found Jonathan Winters. I found Bill Cosby, Say what you will, Bill Cosby's a monster. But back then he wasn't, He
was funny.
I was just thinking like thinking about back to 80, Bill Cosby was still America's dad. About to become America's dad, but hugely popular. John Voight was sane, kind of a Libby. And
you could actually understand Nick Nolte.
And also James Woods was kind of a normal guy.
Person.
Yeah, it's just like, wow, how times have changed, baby.
I know. His,
you know who's still cool?
Oh.
Eddie Murphy.
That is true. His impersonation of Al Green led to other work at clubs within walking distance and then late-night jobs at locations that required him to commute by train. To do this, he secretly skipped school, and after his mother discovered this at the end of his senior year, she made him attend summer school.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Not that he needed it, but good for her.
But at the time, she didn't know where this was going to go, so it's like, you got to have an education. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Stand-up comedian wasn't a really viable career back then.
No.
There was a few guys on the circuit. It was a very different,
especially for a young black man, like it would be tough.
But he was kind of the granddaddy of the new.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't say granddaddy, but he came up at the same time as like Robin Williams and Ray Romano, like all these guys, Jay Leno, all these Seinfeld.
Yeah.
All these iconic comedians kind of emerged at the same time and started changing what comedy was, and that's what this guy did.
Yeah. In September 1980, talent coordinator Neil Levy received a telephone call from 19-year-old Eddie Murphy, who had begged the producer to give him a shot on SNL, but was rejected since the black cast member had already been chosen.
Ugh. That is so 100% true.
That is
it's so gross.
Epitome of being an African American in 1980 America.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, we already have a black one.
It's
just like Ugh.
Eddie Murphy really wanted to be on SNL. That was a big thing, and rightfully so, because between 1975 and 1980, SNL was huge.
Oh my God, it was the pinnacle of any sort of sketch comedian. That was the goal. I mean, still today. You look at everybody that's auditioned and has, everybody from, Melissa McCarthy to John Goodman, have auditioned, and many have not got on. But it's like that was the goal. And this was a different time before, they send everybody into clubs and down to the Groundlings to watch stuff. Right. It was tough to get on. But apparently not super tough because the new cast was pretty subpar, let's just say.
At the end of the 1979-1980 season, Lorne Michaels, who had been successfully helming the show for about 5 years, wanted to take a break. He was under the assumption that NBC would keep the show in limbo until he came back, but they didn't.
Money. We need some money.
Lorne Michaels wanted Al Franken to take over, who was a writer for the previous 2 seasons.
Oh, yeah, Franken and Davis, man. Yeah. A great comedy team, a great writing team, and they were responsible for a lot of some of the funniest stuff on Saturday Night Live. Like, the early stuff, 75 to 80, I was really young, so I would sneak down to peek, because my folks would watch. Everybody watched it back then, all the oldies. And I 100% remember the first thing I ever saw on Saturday Night Live, and it is so vivid in my memory. It was this commercial parody. You remember those Heinz commercials? Anticipation.
Oh yeah.
Waiting for it to come dribbling out.
Yeah.
It was this like Perrier water commercial with this water that was like from this pond that was just goop, and it was like the same. And it was pouring it in the tank. It goes anticipate. But I just remember it so vividly, and I was hooked.
Yeah. So Lorne Michaels wanted Al Franken to take over, but NBC exec Fred Silverman passed when Franken did a scathing rebuke of him during a Weekend Update commentary called "A Limo for a Lamo" on one of the last shows of season 5.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, executives don't have great sense of humor about themselves.
They do not. Fred Silverman was pissed and promoted associate producer Gene Dumanian to head the show. I always want to say Jean, and it's not. It's a woman.
Well, you're a Francophile, so that's
or a Frenchophile. That's what I call it.
Like French fries. I'm a Frenchophile.
A Frenchophile, yeah. But Gene Dumanian was an associate producer. She was a writer for the show. NBC almost immediately cut the show's budget from $1 million an episode to about $350,000 per episode. Dumanian had only 2 months to discover and prepare a new cast and crew.
They set her up to fail.
Yes, it was
100%.
Yeah.
And it seems like, oh wow, how progressive. They put a woman in charge. Yeah. But the crappy thing is, they put her in charge because they thought that they could manipulate her.
Yeah.
And she would be like, oh, cutting the budget almost 2/3. She will. It's gross.
Yeah.
It's absolutely gross.
It was
and
really
and she was put in there, to fail. And
Yeah.
and she didn't do a bad job.
No. I mean, she did what she could, given
the best she could.
She was given almost no help, and that they essentially set her up to fail. Yeah. Despite Eddie Murphy being ignored because of his skin color, he continued to call Neil Levy, wanting an audition. The talent coordinator, Neil Levy. Levy finally auditioned him and recommended him to Dumanian. Dumanian, after seeing Murphy's audition, advocated for him with the network, and Murphy was cast as a featured player.
He was like, all right, we'll make you the backup.
I guess we'll have 2 black people. Yvonne Hudson, I believe.
Yvonne Hudson was really funny.
Yvonne Hudson.
She was really good. There was a few people in this cast that were really funny.
Yeah. The first episode, renamed Saturday Night Live 80 in the opening credits.
So 80s, by the way. So 80s.
It aired on November 15th in 1980, featured the all-new cast, including Charles Rocket, who they were grooming to be the new breakout star, Denny Dillon, Gilbert Gottfried, before he started doing his trademark voice.
Yeah, no, it's weird watching him on Saturday Night Live. It is because he's super freaking young.
Yeah.
He looks like a baby boy, and it's just him being like, "Hi, I'm Gilbert Gottfried. What's going on? Let me do some characters for you."
Gail Mathias, Joe Piscopo, and Ann Risley. Risley?
It's Risley, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I gotta be honest, I don't know Denny Dillon, Gail Mathias.
You would if you saw him. Denny Dillon was kind of a short, squat, heavy-set blonde woman.
Okay.
She was kind of like she's one of my least favorite kind of sketch performers, which is the louder is funnier branch.
Oh, yeah.
And and they just gave her hysterical screechy roles and stuff. She just or like tough guy roles.
Yeah.
Or like she was the drunk, she was fine, but they just didn't give her a lot to do.
And Yvonne Hudson was hired as a feature player and became SNL's first black female cast member.
Yeah, Charles Rocket was not anywhere close to what they wanted.
Oh, no.
He was very bland and vanilla. He was okay. He ended up killing himself, by the way.
Did he?
Yeah. He committed suicide, 10 years ago or so.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh.
It's the Rocket ride is a sad ride. The only thing I also remember him from, which he was really good on, is I think he played Bruce Willis's brother on Moonlighting.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, if I am correct. But I know he was on one of those shows, and he was charismatic, but he just didn't have that it factor that Chevy Chase or Bill Murray had. He just, he was kind of like a less attractive the guy from Community.
Joel McHale.
Yeah, Joel McHale.
Yeah.
He had that kind of, but he just wasn't. It just didn't click.
It didn't work. Yeah. Elliot Gould agreed to host the first episode of the new season, contributing to the sense that the season 6 was doomed. In the first sketch, the cast shared a bed with Elliot Gould and introduced themselves.
Yeah, I remember this. By the way, the whole everybody was just dumbfounded. Sounds awful. That they got rid of the first cast.
Yeah.
And then they're putting in these all these unknowns without Lorne Michaels. And
right.
So it's just like the air was stinky. And nobody was like, "Oh, can't wait for the SNL 80."
That's just the thing, is that they all knew this. Like, they knew the uphill battle they had. And
it must have sucked, because it'd be like there's a let's do a sports analogy, even though I know nothing. I'm kidding. I do. Okay, let's just do a sports analogy. So it's like team won the Super Bowl, with Tom Brady as a quarterback. Tom Brady retires, they get the whole new team for the next year, and then you're the new quarterback, and everybody's just like,
who are you?
Yeah, exactly. And you start losing,
Well, you're crap compared to him.
They drafted you out of junior high.
It's bad. It was bad. Charles Rocket proclaimed himself to be a cross between Chevy Chase and Bill Murray, and Gilbert Gottfried, prior to adopting his signature screechy, obnoxious voice, referred to himself as a cross between John Belushi and that guy from last year who did Ron Serling, and no one can remember his name, who he was referring to was Harry Shearer.
I will tell you this. Throughout all of the horrible seasons of Saturday Night Live and the good seasons of Saturday Night Live, one thing that's been consistent is they've always had good little shorts. Even in these dog times.
Oh, yeah. Eddie Murphy made his non-speaking network television debut in a sketch called In Search of the Negro Republican.
Classy.
He did not speak, but it was fine. He pushed for more showtime and delivered successful weekend update commentary in the following episode, and his gambit worked because he was made a full cast member by episode 7.
Even on that show, you're like, who's this dude? Even without him saying, you're like, who's this guy?
Even in Search of the Negro Republican, people were like, who is he? Even though he didn't have a speaking part.
Eddie Murphy is so freaking cool.
Yes.
He is possibly the coolest stand-up comedian ever. Look, Richard Pryor is the GOAT. But Richard Pryor, there's a lot of, insecurity and a lot of like personal whatever. But Eddie Murphy is just this cool, smooth, funny man who
smooth. That is,
a guy who in Beverly Hills Cop laughs at these leather outfits as he's passing by, and then like a year later he's wearing it on his special.
Can't stop wearing my leather pants.
Unironically, you could only do that if you're the coolest guy in the world.
Yeah. On February 21st, 1981, the show featured a parody of the Who Shot JR craze from the soap opera Dallas in a cliffhanger titled Who Shot CR, meaning Charles Rocket.
Yes, I remember this.
He was shot in the last sketch of the episode after a running gag in which other members of the cast shared their grievances about Rocket with one another. On stage, for the Good Nights, Dallas star and that week's host, Charlene Tilton, asked Rocket, still in character and sitting in a wheelchair, his thoughts on being shot. He replied,
"Oh, man, it's the first time I've been shot in my life. I'd like to know who the did it."
Wah, wah, wah.
Okay, we had 3 channels, and we had a very strict system of censors.
Yes.
You can't say that on TV.
No,
it was
no.
Pretty huge.
Although, I gotta be honest, I'm really surprised that this was the first time that someone uttered a quote-unquote curse word in the live show. I mean, they went 5 years without having anybody slip up.
It was the first cast member. There was a lot of swear words that were kind of snuck into songs.
Yes, that's true. True.
But it's like too muffled or quick for the censors to get their fingers on the button.
That episode it happened, and that's part of the reason that Charles Rocket was like, "But he said it, why can't I?"
Shut up! You're not Prince Charles Rocket,
yes,
and you never will be.
Yes. The cast, along with some
Rest
of the
in
audience, the cast, along with some of the audience, reacted with laughter and applause. But inside the control room, there was no laughter. Then NBC censor Bill Clotworthy buried his head in his hands, and director Dave Wilson, knowing that the show was finished for good, simply threw his script papers in the air and said,
"Well, that's the end of live television,"
and walked out of the room. According to talent coordinator Neil Levy, Dumanian herself was so livid by the incident that she was ready to jump up to the monitors and tear the video cables in half with her teeth.
Yeah, it sounds like hyperbolic to me.
A little bit.
Unless she was like a chewer, a biter.
She was a crazy, hysterical woman, Jim.
she did a lot of biting.
She did.
She was known to do a lot of biting when she was
That was actually
upset.
her autobiography, was My Life with Bite.
I thought it was Bite Like Me.
Bite Like Me.
The Dominion story
Just
or whatever.
one more bite. Yeah. Oh no!
Stand back, I bite.
Rocket later unsuccessfully tried to justify his actions to the episode's musical guest Prince blurted out the word during performance of his song Party Up, but he ended up saying it so incoherently that the censors could not spot it.
He just said it flat out.
Yeah.
Like, what is he? Must have been cocaine, man. Must have been the hubris of cocaine.
Yeah. He was excited.
It's the hubris of cocaine, baby.
As a semi-joke on the following week's episode, hosted by Bill Murray, Murray snubbed Rocket for his behavior the previous week and told him to
watch his mouth and clean it up.
The episode after Bill Murray hosted was scheduled for March 14th, 1981, which would have been hosted by Robert Guillaume. Guillaume? Am I saying that right?
Robert Guillaume from Benson, baby.
There we go, Benson, yeah.
And
Robert Guillaume.
Soap.
And Soap. Every time I see Robert Guillaume, I read it. I have to repeat it in my head like 8 times. I'm going to say it wrong.
Oh, he's awesome, man.
Oh, yeah, he was fantastic. Yeah. And it had Ian Drury and the Blockheads as a musical guest, but it was canceled.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The cast and writers were unaware that Brandon Tartikoff, the head of programming for NBC, invited Dick Ebersol, the original developer of SNL, to watch the show in secrecy in the control booth and was totally in despair over how the quality of the show sank.
But look, man, it was garbage.
Yeah.
The show was garbage.
It was just not good.
The show was garbage after Eddie Murphy was on, too, but it was watchable because of him.
Yes.
The writing was so bad.
Yeah, it was not good.
Anybody who wrote for that show, if you're listening, shame on you.
In fact, it was so bad that SNL had been overtaken in the ratings by ABC's ripoff show Fridays.
Yes. Michael Richards was on Fridays.
Okay.
And that's what led to his job on Seinfeld.
It's funny because I've been watching Cheers and Night Court, and he has bit parts in both of them.
Oh, yeah.
And the one in Night Court's great because he's convinced he's invisible, and it is literally Kramer. It is just Kramer.
He played a lot of, just off the wall, complete. Like if you ever saw UHF, he's the big star in that.
Fantastic in
Unreal. That guy is. We got to do a show about him.
But the best is in Cheers is the episode, and the episode's just so off the wall. Where apparently when Sam had relapsed into drinking, he made a bet with Michael Richards that if he didn't marry Jacqueline Bisset by a certain date, he was going to lose his bar to Michael Richards.
Oh, really? I don't remember that. What season was that?
The episode, it was season 3, I believe. But the episode was so good because the whole plot made no sense, and they end up finding another person named Jacqueline Bisset, and then and he wants to marry her, and then it was ridiculous.
That plot has been so recycled, but I just started rewatching Cheers, and good Lord, that's a good show. So my God. That's another one right out of the gate.
Yeah, 100%.
Right out of the gate was what it was. Unlike Saturday Night Live 80, which right out of the gate was a steaming turd.
Falled in the toilet, yeah. Ebersol was actually hired. He actually hired Lorne Michaels in 1975 and was now given the task of trying to reclaim the luster of the show.
Yeah, good luck.
And keeping it from getting canceled completely. In his first week, Ebersol fired Gilbert Gottfried, Risley, and Charles Rocket, replacing them with Robin Duke, Tim Kazurinsky, and Tony Rosato.
Now, I remember Robin Duke. She was Robin Duke was really funny.
Yeah.
She ended up being really good with, I think, I can't remember her name. But she was funny. Tim Kazurinsky was really great at hey, guys, that were really...
the kind of nib.
Yeah.
Nib, yeah.
He did this, not Sniglets. Was
Nebbish?
Yeah, he was just, not so much of a nebbish, but just like that little white guy that's just kind of like, excuse me, please, He was great at that. He was hilarious.
At the end of the season, Dick Ebersol would eliminate the rest of the 1980 cast except for Eddie Murphy and Joe Piscopo.
Yeah, because they were the only funny guys.
That is true. Ebersol originally wanted to bring in John Candy and Catherine O'Hara from SCTV. John Candy turned down the offer, and Rosato joined instead. Catherine O'Hara actually initially accepted the job, but changed her mind after a production meeting where Michael O'Donoghue, the original head writer for SNL, who had been rehired to save the show, he actually left at the end of the 78 season. He screamed at the cast and writers for the show's poor performances and sketches, and Catherine O'Hara quit.
Yeah, I would too, because she's like, excuse me, I just got here.
Yeah, it's like, none of that was mine. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Why don't you call up the a-holes you just fired and scream at them?
Yeah, Michael O'Donoghue apparently was very well known for being incredibly angry all the time.
Yes, incredibly funny.
Yeah.
Incredibly funny.
Amazing writer. But not a very nice person.
No, and that always just rankles me.
Most of them were cowering. Most of the cast members were cowering in their seats in fear. But Michael O'Donoghue was shocked and impressed that Eddie Murphy did not even flinch once during his explosive rant.
Because that's what a bully does. A bully's looking for a reaction, and if he doesn't, there's like a begrudging respect for the guy that won't be bullied. I've worked for enough bullies and was raised by a bully to know how it works.
But Eddie Murphy is the epitome of the water off the duck's back. He just takes it and goes, whatever.
The MF is too cool for school, baby.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't need this, man. He knows from then. Look, he knew. The guy's smart.
Oh, yeah.
He knew. It's just like a matter of time. And he was smart. He plotted it out. He wasn't a moron that left right away.
He just had to get his foot in the door, and he knew.
He stayed to hone it, man. He didn't just jump in and jump out, because he could have.
No. But
he stayed for a few years.
He knew he was going to have to do characters and do right every single week, and it would force him to get better at his craft.
And it would ingratiate him to a captive audience.
Exactly.
Where it would launch him into his career. The guy, he was planning and plotting at
18.
19. Yeah, 18.
Yeah.
He's so impressive.
Yeah. Ebersol's first show aired April 11th in 1981 with appearances by Chevy Chase on Weekend Update and Al Franken asking viewers to, quote-unquote, put SNL to sleep.
Yeah, they did a lot of these weird things where they did phone-in polls and stuff.
It was odd. It was just odd. Ebersol, wanting to establish a connection to the original cast, allowed Franken's mock-serious routine on the air. Ebersol had promised Al Franken and Tom Davis that in addition to appearing on the April 11th show, they could host the next week.
Which is odd because even though they were very well known to the SNL fans and stuff, they weren't very famous.
No,
it wasn't like that.
I mean, they were SNL people.
They had the Franken and Davis show, but that was on SNL.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seemed odd. I think Dick Ebersol was just trying everything.
Well, they were the Franken and Davis skits. The Franken and Davis sketches are parts of SNL. Were really popular and extremely funny. Those guys are great together.
Al Franken's fantastic.
Tom Davis too. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get as much credit because he didn't go into the Senate, but yeah, I mean, those guys were geniuses.
So, totally. During the following week, with a writer's strike looming, Franken and Davis wrote material and mailed it to themselves so that their postmark could be used to prove they did not violate the strike.
Nice.
Yeah, smart move. After seeing copies of the material, Ebersol, who was never a fan of Franken and Davis's, caved to the writer's strike and called off the rest of the season, promising the duo they could host the season premiere that fall. As the summer ended, Ebersol, confident in his new cast, decided he no longer needed a link to the original cast. So he essentially ghosted Al Franken and Tom Davis.
Yeah, because you know why? Because they were edgy because they effed with the money. And they effed with the uppers, and they didn't care.
Yes. Yeah, they would poke fun at the guys who paid their bills, and they didn't care.
They're crazy pot-smoking hippie National Lampoon holdovers from the 60s, baby. I mean,
totally.
Those guys, they're not going to play games. They're going to play ball with you, Ebersol.
Franken would not return to SNL until almost 4 years later as a featured cast member, which is part of the reason that I know him, is because he was on during the 80s when I started watching SNL.
Yep.
By fall 1981, Joe Piscopo and Eddie Murphy were the only performers from Doumanian's cast to appear in SNL for season 7.
Yeah.
Piscopo was popular, renowned for his Frank Sinatra impersonation, as well as his characters Polly Herman and, with Robin Duke, Doug and Wendy Weiner.
Okay. Everyone, and my mother and stepfather did the Doug and Wendy Weiner impersonation. We're Doug and Wendy Weiner. Oh, why is everything so hard? It was 5 minutes of shrill whining, and then the rest of the week of everyone being I wanted to kill them.
Literally just 2 seconds of you doing it was enough for me.
It was the worst, man. It was one of the worst parts of the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm comparing it to the hostage crisis, baby. It was worse than that.
Eddie Murphy became a breakout star under Ebersol, and his soaring popularity helped restore the show's ratings. And obviously, I mean, I put this at the end of the script, but if it wasn't for Eddie Murphy, SNL would have been canceled.
Oh, 100%. And Piscopo was good. Piscopo was funny. Sure. He was still a skinny, spindly weirdo, and he still was more concerned with comedy than steroids. But we were talking about this because we watched the Dion, one of the Dion sketches. What was it was Dion and
I don't remember his name.
Exactly. See?
It was
Joe Piscopo and Eddie Murphy used to do these gay hairdresser characters, Dion and Leon, I don't know.
Joe Piscopo.
Yeah, Dion and Joe Piscopo's cringy, stereotypical BS. But you would watch Joe Piscopo, and he didn't have the confidence to commit to being a gay character. There was a lot of wrist flippy, a lot of
he would lose the character.
Yeah, because he couldn't commit because it was nobody's gonna believe I'm gay. There's so many actors I know that were like, I'd love to play a gay character, but nobody would believe it. And me like, really?
You're admitting you're a bad actor?
Exactly. No,
Is that what you're saying? You're just saying you're not good enough. All right, good job.
Eddie Murphy embodied that character. Watching him do it, it wasn't stereotypical. He was that character,
Yeah, no. He lived and breathed that character. Every character he went into.
His characters weren't caricatures.
No,
they had stereotypical qualities. Look, I'm not going to say that he was 100%, woke or whatever you want to say it. No. But for the time, he was not. He was so cool, smooth, and confident that he didn't worry about playing a gay character or doing anything that would, quote unquote, hurt his masculinity.
Right.
Because he didn't care. He was just too cool, baby, and too talented.
Yeah. He didn't imitate the character. He was the character.
That's why Piscopo is gone and Murphy is still super popular because Piscopo never committed, man. He was always a caricature in everything he did, really.
It's really funny because I've been watching.
It's not 100% fair. He did a really good Sinatra.
Sure. No, Joe Piscopo wasn't bad.
No, but I mean, compared to we're comparing like Hall of Fame. It's like comparing Michael Jordan to Muggsy Bogues. They're both good players, but Muggsy was never.
Yeah, he wasn't on that level. At all.
There's a difference between authentic and stereotypical.
Exactly. And that is what Eddie Murphy was so good at.
Yeah. No, yeah.
So some of his other characters he created, the intensely popular Buckwheat.
Otay.
The grown-up version of the Little Rascals character, hugely popular, although not everyone loved it.
Oh, my God. He was so incredible. Like, Eddie Murphy's character, it would be like, because this is kind of when I came up. This was when Saturday Night Live started to make real sense to me. Like, I could watch the old stuff and that's John Belushi is the Incredible Hulk, but I didn't get the subtext or whatever. Or like, one of those funny cigarettes they're smoking. But I was making jokes with my friends. I was a funny guy by that point, and I had a sense of humor. And this was kind of when I started embracing, my buddy, I was going to say Laser Shoot Larry, Laser Tag Larry. He'd come over and we'd have spend the nights. We'd have sleepovers and we'd, or eat pizza and we'd stay up late and watch Saturday Night Live. And it was just like, that was when I started like, ooh, it's like, it was kind of like being in a club, I guess. Right. And this was my real introduction to the club. Like I would get to visit the club occasionally back in the old days, but now it's like, here's your key, baby.
So not everyone loved the character. George McFarlane, who played Spanky in Little Rascals, who was friends with Billy Thomas, who originally played Buckwheat, made it clear that he hated Murphy's imitations. He said,
I didn't care for them a bit. Mr. Murphy did a very poor imitation. He made Buckwheat into a stereotype that he wasn't, at the expense of the people and his family who were still alive.
Yeah, and it's funny. The funny thing is that Billy Thomas never said anything about it. Like he didn't. He passed in like '94, but like he never went on record about Eddie Murphy doing his Buckwheat.
Really?
But George McFarlane was all over the place about it.
Well, Spanky McFarlane, who was like one of the cutest kids ever in the world, and one of the greatest little child actors.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's hard to find because of a lot of the problematic issues with the R gang.
Yeah.
But he was just a little man.
Yeah.
And I get it, man. I mean,
it's his cherished childhood. It's his thing. I get being angry about it.
I think the way he played Buckwheat, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
He liked the character.
Yeah.
The character had a horrible speech impediment, but he came across as kind of dumb, but he wasn't dumb.
Right.
He just didn't really know how to express himself. I don't know. I think, the reason why his characters are so big is because he loved them and he imbued them in a way that other people didn't,
Yeah.
And And I think you can get so upset because he did such a good job. This is not an impersonation of the actor that played Buckwheat.
Right.
This is an exaggerated impersonation of the character Buckwheat, which was a pretty racist little character.
Yes.
You know, not the guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I was putting my foot in my mouth.
Buckwheat was so racist. Why was he so racist?
That actor.
So after Murphy grew very tired of constant demands from fans to do Buckwheat,
Do Buckwheat. Yo, Eddie.
Do Buckwheat.
Do Buckwheat.
The Buckwheat character was retired in spectacular fashion. The greatest, I personally think, is the greatest short film that SNL has ever produced. And granted, it wasn't a short film because it was done in chunks.
It was a running gag.
Over the course of 2 shows. But Buckwheat was assassinated on camera in front of 30 Rockefeller Plaza, a la Ronald Reagan.
It was exactly like Ronald Reagan,
yes.
It was exactly the same. It was the same shot of Reagan coming out that we all had to watch a billion times. Him raising his arm and being like, hey, how you guys doing?
Bang, bang, bang.
Oh, what's going on? I got shot in the armpit. I get shot in the armpit.
Yeah.
Who am I? But it was spectacular. And the fact that they did it through 2 shows.
Yeah.
It was genius. I mean, it was like, because the whole thing was like
breaking
news.
news.
It was like, it was a cross between the assassination of Ronald Reagan mixed with Who Shot JR in a much more intriguing way than Who Shot Stupid Charles Rocket.
Yes.
May he rest in peace.
Yes. Buckwheat dead, America mourns. The death of Buckwheat was a runner that lasted through the March 19th, 1983 episode into the following week, taking the form of news bulletins hosted as Joe Piscopo as the
Ted
couple.
Couple.
Yeah.
Buckwheat is
great.
dead. I remember that.
Yeah.
Buckwheat is dead.
If you can see it on YouTube, you can watch. They're all together, and it goes. It's like 7.5 minutes long, but it culminates in the death of John David Stutz, who most definitely killed Buckwheat, as he said to everyone every single time they asked him. But then John David Stutz got murdered in the style of Lee Harvey Oswald's getting shot. And then eventually it was the death of a murderer. And like,
so insane.
It was just so... It just kept piling on, and it was so brilliant.
The second one was on my birthday. And I remember having my, Laser Tag Larry was over, and, we did all whatever birthday stuff, and I remember us watching this episode. Because you had to come back and see, like, what happens to Stutz.
It was so brilliant. It is
so well done, yeah.
Highly recommend. I will be posting a link to it.
Like I said, pretty much all of the pre-recorded or short film stuff on SNL has just been bonkers. It's been so good.
Yeah. He also did the character of Gumby, which was a life-size version of the Gumby toy character.
I'm Gumby, damn it!
Yeah. The best part is that he's very... I hadn't seen this in a long time, but he very much was channeling Prince Hakeem from Coming to America in his accent that he was doing for Gumby. The life story of Gumby, where he has somebody playing him and he's trying to be the hero. It's so brilliant.
Gumby was pretty much a Jackie Mason impersonation as Gumby, which was brilliant. It's like, Gumby... If you people know who Gumby and Pokey are, they're these claymation. I don't know what Gumby is, some mush.
He's
weird
like
thing.
A piece of clay.
Yeah, and then Pokey's kind of a horse. And they're lovers. I don't know, but it was a very popular little claymation thing, and it was very happy and peppy. And Gumby was a very happy little guy. So him playing Gumby is like this disgruntled old man. That was the beauty of Murphy, is he found a way into characters that. Some of them had a lot of depth, like Gumby or Buckwheat.
Yeah.
And he would do stuff like James Brown, which he would just find a hook.
Yeah.
Ooh,
it was one joke.
that was so funny and so just burnt to the ground. But that was like he couldn't keep coming back and doing the same joke.
But they made... The beauty of that is that, and this is the problem with SNL and why it got bad for a while, and even during the 90s and whatever, they would see this, and they would do a character that was one joke, and they would have it last 8 minutes, and it would be one joke over and over again, but none of them had the celebrity and the charm that Eddie Murphy had.
Right.
But Eddie Murphy also was smart in that none of these the James Brown stuff was no longer than 2 minutes.
Oh, no.
It was always short. Yeah. It was to the point, and he didn't beat it to death.
But he would do the longer form sketches like Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood.
Yes.
Which around this time is when Laser Tag Larry and I started making our own Saturday Night Lives.
Nice.
And my ripoff of Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, which was a ripoff of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, was Uncle Pervy's Neighborhood.
God.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. This is how big this was to me, is we were making our own versions of this stuff.
Right.
You'd watch Saturday Night Live, you'd see Eddie Murphy just be brilliant, and then it would inspire you to do your own thing. You know, I was never inspired by Denny Dillon or Tim Kazurinsky, but you know what I mean? It's like...
Yep. I would agree with that.
I never ripped off the Sniglets character.
Yeah, so Mr. Roberts' Neighborhood, actually the first appearance was in the same episode where Charles Rocket swore at the end.
Yeah.
The Who Shot CR episode. Instead of teaching kids about manners and kindness, Mr. Robinson schools his viewers on the harsh realities of getting by in the inner city.
Like hi, children.
Drug deals and theft and unpaid bills and the ever-present threat of violence.
The best was like, someone's at the door, children. And he'd look around and be like, who is it?
It was great. It was fun. It went on.
All of these
Robinson went on forever.
All of these are on YouTube. All of these.
Yes, find vintage. He did a really good impersonation of Stevie Wonder.
Oh yeah.
Which was really funny when Stevie Wonder eventually came on and was a musical guest. Yeah. And
that's also they did the gay characters with Stevie Wonder.
That was they. Yeah, Stevie Wonder came in and
to get a haircut.
To get his braids redone or whatever.
Yes, tighten his braids.
Tighten his braids, and Joe Piscopo just passes out.
That's all he did.
And it was funny because that literally, it was just to see the reaction to Stevie Wonder, because he goes in, they talk for a bit, and then he leaves.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And then Eddie Murphy comes out and kills it.
Kills it. Yeah.
But that's where you can really see the difference of the two guys, like we were talking about with the confidence of. Just knowing that you're cool and that you're the best at what you do versus an insecure dude who ended up needing to roid himself up like the Incredible Hulk because
everyone might think he's gay.
Piscopo?
Yeah, I know. Joe Piscopo did something really odd to himself.
With the exception of the greatest of all time, Carrot Top, no comedian who's got all buffed out has become any funnier. It's a lot less funny. I think muscles suck the funny out of your brain.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Another character that Eddie Murphy did was Velvet Jones.
Oh, Velvet Jones.
In the span of 3 months, Velvet Jones was on SNL 4 times. He essentially was just doing a funny voice and alluding to prostitution.
Yep.
He did it in 1981. In 82, the character was retired. In 83, they brought him back to sell a porno tape masquerading as an exercise video. And it literally was essentially just Eddie Murphy in a wig. And him talking. It was not even really a character.
That's the thing. Eddie Murphy, I honestly think that there were times when in dress, they're like, this sketch doesn't work. We need an extra 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Put a wig on Murphy. Do a character.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do. One of the greatest little short films we got to talk about is White Like Me.
Yes, I was just getting to that. White Like Me, which debuted in December of 1984. It's one of the last things he did.
Yeah.
He essentially becomes white. They make him white. I don't even know how else to describe it.
It is hilarious because he's like doing the research. You know, as they're doing the makeup, he's like, okay, it looks like white people. Looks like they have a stick up their butt when their butt cheeks are really clenched when they walk. I have to remember to clench my cheeks. And then you watch him walk as a white person after he gets all. It's just so hilarious, and I'm sure even racists probably laughed at it, even though they were being made fun of. But it was just go ahead.
It was. He was given newspapers for free. The newspaper guy was like, "No, just take it. You don't have to give me money."
The greatest. Yeah. What are you doing? I'm buying this newspaper. Nobody's here. Just take it. And the look on his face, like, what? Are you trying to trick me? It's very Bugs Bunny. And
he's commuting on a bus, and as soon as the last minority leaves, they have a party.
Yeah, woman starts passing out champagne, gets on his lap, and then people dancing in the aisles.
And his boss treats him like an old country club chum. He gets a loan. They at first aren't going to give him a loan.
Well, that's because this is the brilliance of it too. He's at a bank trying to get a loan, and the loan officer is black. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you're trying to tell me that you have no collateral, no identification, no anything, and you want $50,000? Yes. Mister, we are not we're not a charity.
Yeah.
And then the white guy hears it and he's like, why don't you go take your break? Like, what do you need? Pay it back.
Yes.
Or don't. We don't care. How much do you need?
I can do this at all the other banks too. Yes. Yes. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend seeing it. It was interesting because Eddie Murphy,
Well, the best part, you
go
gotta
ahead.
the ending where he's like,
oh yeah, yeah.
I got a lot of friends, I got a lot of makeup, and it's just like he's just painting everybody. It's just
Everybody's turning white.
everybody white, and it's just such a great commentary at the time.
So, with the release of the film 48 Hours, which we'll be covering next week, Murphy's star began to eclipse the other cast members. Murphy's co-star in the film, Nick Nolte, was scheduled to host the show that December, but canceled the last minute due to illness.
I'm not feeling too good.
Yeah. Dick Ebersol offered Murphy the chance to host, a move that Joe Piscopo would perceive as a major slight.
Because he's a super insecure little turd.
Yeah, and Eddie Murphy and Joe Piscopo were close.
Yeah, they were good friends.
They were good friends.
They were like they were the friendship goals of the 80s, because they also had a really good chemistry together. Mm-hmm. Murphy elevated Piscopo.
Yeah.
Piscopo was good. Piscopo, like I said, he's got a very iconic old blue eyes. Frank Sinatra. Yeah. But also, when you see them together, he gets past the ball, but Eddie Murphy's going to go to the hoop.
Right,
like,
exactly. Murphy played into this by changing the usual live from New York at Saturday night to live from New York. It's the Eddie Murphy Show,
which is fun and funny. You play to the hubris. It's like,
yeah.
I remember watching this show.
Yeah,
and honestly was when I knew, okay, he's going to be huge.
Yeah.
It's like this guy's leaving the show, and when he does, it's going to be a cannon.
He's given the opportunity, and Eddie Murphy ran with it every time.
And I remember seeing 48 Hours with Larry in the theater and just being like,
yep.
Okay, this is my favorite actor in the world, ever.
Yep.
Eddie Murphy was such a huge influence on me and such a huge part of my formative years that, I had his album that I had on cassette that I had on my Walkman 24/7, boogie in your butt, boogie in your butt. I couldn't get enough of that guy. He was just, anytime, I saw Best Defense, man.
Yeah.
I saw Best Defense.
Piscopo would later claim that Ebersol used Murphy's success to divide the two friends and play them against one another. It definitely changed their relationship.
Oh yeah,
and it's sad because they were really close.
But it's also jealousy, Eddie Murphy was always going to be a huge star. Joe Piscopo, he had his moments in what was that?
Johnny Dangerously.
But that was when he was on his way out. He was fine.
Yeah, he was funny in it,
but his insecurity got him.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be. He didn't want to be a spindly comedian anymore. He wanted to try to be some jacked up action hero, and it's just
change his look. And
look, buddy, and I say this with all sincerity and all self reflection, knowing about my own self. You do not have the face of a movie star. You got the body of Rambo, but you got the face of Don Rickles.
It's true. Trading Places was released in '83 and was an even bigger success than 48 Hours.
I saw that movie so many times in the theater. Yeah. Oh, my God. That movie was so funny.
We'll be covering that in 2 weeks. In February 1984, Eddie Murphy left the show. His appearances for the remainder of the season consisted of sketches he had pre-taped in September of 1983. Murphy's stand-up TV special for HBO, Delirious, was a huge success.
I ran out 2 videotapes.
Wow.
From that.
Watching that? Yeah.
I had to get another one from a friend. I had to make a dupe because I watched that so many times.
Wow. That's crazy. I never saw Delirious. I was a little young, but it also was on HBO, which I did not have.
Yeah.
But I did see Raw, which they released in the theater because Delirious was so popular, was so amazingly popular. But Raw came out in 87, I think.
Was it
85 or 87? I don't remember.
I think it was 85 because I
85.
saw the Something Dangerous tour.
That was later.
Yeah. It was around 87 because I saw it.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Because I saw that when I was still in high school. And that, man, Larry and I went, my best bud. We need to get him on the show. But we went, the Weather Girls opened.
Yeah.
It's raining men. Hallelujah. Who knew they had more songs than that?
Yeah.
But they do. And they were so energetic and so much fun. Then he comes out, man, and I've been lucky enough because I was a huge comedy nerd as a kid.
Yeah.
I started doing stand-up at like 15. You know, I wasn't very good at it, but I hit the SD Comedy Store and got brutalized. I just loved it. That's what I wanted to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to see a lot of the greats, but he by far was the best. He is the greatest of all time. From the minute he came on stage to the minute he left, we were all dying.
Yeah.
Dying, you know?
Murphy appeared in Best Defense, Jim's favorite movie of all time, co-starring Dudley Moore. This is one of the first times that I can recall where they literally just added somebody in because he was so popular.
Yes. And this was the sad thing about this was Dudley Moore was huge.
Yeah.
With Arthur and 10 and there's just this little tiny English drunk. There was a period of a tiny little English drunk that stole all of our hearts. But this was kind of the ending of his career and the beginning of Murphy's.
Right,
and this movie, there's never been more of don't watch it. It's not worth watching because of this.
No.
But there's never been more of a passing of the torch from one to the other than Best Defense.
Murphy was credited as a strategic guest star and was added to the film after the original version was
strategically
completed.
to get asses in the seats.
But the movie had tested poorly with audiences, so they had him in. It was a major financial and critical disappointment, and to the point where Murphy actually joined in to the chorus of those bashing the movie, calling it the worst movie in the history of everything.
Well, he's not everything, but the worst movie in the history of Murphy, and he's made some stinks.
Oh, he has.
As he got older, the quality went down a little bit. But you know, he's come back recently.
Yeah.
Dolomite's My Name was super fun, and he was really great in it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the Coming to America
sequel. Yeah.
It was really fun to see everybody come back.
Yeah,
It wasn't as good as the original, but it was still fun.
Yeah.
And Trevor Noah was in it, one of my faves. But it's good to see him coming back. It's funny because there's such a outcry for him to do stand-up again. Mm-hmm. And he keeps saying, oh, yeah, I'm working on something. I'm going to come back. You know, he was on the Comedians in Cars with Seinfeld. And it's like, I think I might come back. And all the comedians are like, oh, man, you got to come back. There's no upside for him to come back.
No.
I don't think he's going to do it. And I only say this because there is no upside. I don't think he's going to be... He doesn't have that hunger that he had as a kid. Still got the talent.
Sure.
He's still, you know, I'm not saying that he couldn't do it. And I hope he does more than anything because I don't think he's going to come out and be bad. But it's just, if I were him, I'd be kind of scared S-less to get back on stage. You know,
he was planning. There was in 2019 he was planning because there was a documentary that was being made about him coming back and doing stand up, and then I think COVID happened. And it all went down the toilet, and that was it. But I think you're right. I think at this point he's kind of like, why?
He's 60. He's the GOAT. You know, he's got nothing to prove to anybody.
Yeah,
he's given us hundreds of hours of entertainment, and you know, he's done his bit.
When he was on Comedians in Cars with Getting Coffee or whatever with Seinfeld, I was hoping, because Seinfeld kind of did the same thing. He was away from it for a while, and he came back, and he did it, and he loved it, and he's like, I have to.
But Seinfeld always was going to come back.
I know.
Seinfeld, the reason why he took time off is because he completely retired his act and had to come up with something brand new.
Right.
Where, you know, Murphy got soft. I mean, look, I'm not saying it is a bad thing. The guy's got like 10 kids to take care of.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a whole bunch of stuff going on outside of this. You know, it's like he doesn't owe us a damn thing.
No, and he did. I mean, he did really good movies. He did some bad movies, but he did some really good movies. And like,
even the bads are watchable.
Yes,
because it's Eddie Murphy. I've seen them. I've seen them all. I've seen 100 Words or whatever that awful movie was.
I think it was
1,000 Words. I've seen Norbit. I've seen that Robot one. When was the one where he's the robot?
With the Pluto Nash.
Pluto Nash? Was that Pluto Nash?
Where he's the giant head? Yeah. I thought that was Pluto Nash.
No, I think Pluto Nash is a different one. It was another.
Oh my
weird
God, I
movie.
don't know. He just.
But that's the
Yeah.
the point is I will watch anything that he does because he's Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Just like Harrison Ford, I will watch because those are probably my two favorite guys.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford and Eddie Murphy. I'm not saying they're the best actors in the world. I'm not saying they're my favorite guys. Those are the guys that I loved growing up. That made me love film, that made me love comedy, that made me love sketch, and I'm loyal. I will always, I may not like it, but I will lump it.
So we'll be back next week with 48 Hours.
Yeah.
I'm excited to jump into this. I'm excited for Jim's Nick Nolte impersonation.
I smoked like 3 cartons of cigarettes before the next show to get going.
But I'm excited about I have not seen 48 Hours in a long time, so I'm really excited to jump into it.
It's awesome. It's going to be super fun. Yeah, hit YouTube up to watch a bunch of Murphy clips. Just, search Murphy SNL, and there's some great stuff in there. And there's also some great stuff from when he hosted recently.
Yes.
Like he did
that
this.
Was really fun.
He did a great bit where he was an elf who witnessed something hilarious. Shows that he still got it. But, give yourself a treat. Give a little old Murphy. And we'll have more Murphy for you next week because it's For the Love of Murphy month.
Yeah, go visit our social media. I'm going to be posting links all week to his great SNL stuff.
Yes.
So go back to our social media and look at it.
I just want to say one last thing. I know I'm always like, one more thing. I'm Columbo, basically. Just one more thing, Adam. Just one more thing. In our Stepdad show, on our 50th show, we forgot to mention our buddy Terry Bruce Herring II,
Terry, yes.
who created our logos and did such an amazing job of capturing our show and who we are.
Yes.
And I just wanted to give him a thank you again, and we love you, buddy, and a plug. If you need any sort of designs, go to www.tbh2-designs.com. And he's also an amazing photographer, and if you need any photography needs, go to tbh2photography.com.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw both of those links in our social media.
Yeah, so if you need him,
we'll plug him up.
We'll help you get to him.
Awesome. Thanks for listening.
He was a victim of the Murphy charm. Okay.
And was friends with Billy Thomas, who played the Buckwheat. Wow.
He wasn't. With the expensive people, I'm going to do that again because I didn't read it right.
You did not.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Super Friends, already in progress.